What's up, YouTube? So probably going to call this video something like people don't understand red dots or people don't understand target focus, something like that. What I mean by that is usually over the years when I've had people switching from iron sights to red dots or just picking up a red dot for the first time, or for whatever reason somebody's getting into red dots, I hear one or a combination of a few different excuses, and primarily I can't find the dot. I put the gun up, I can't find the dot, it's not in the window, I always have to do the fishing around thing for it. Or the dot's doing all this crazy stuff in the window, it's hard to focus and shoot an accurate shot because the dot's doing all this dancing around. Or as I'm shooting, the dot's going all crazy and it's leaving the window and I can't get it back and all this stuff. That all kind of stems from a target focus issue, I think. And I'll kind of tackle one at a time. First of all, the I can't find the dot problem. When I usually hear that, I have a few questions I ask, and it's mainly, well, so how long did you spend trying to find the dot? Trying. Because regardless, you're already wrong. We shouldn't be trying to find the dot, but how long were we trying? And usually it's like, well, I went to the range and I tried to shoot a box of ammo or 2 boxes or something. And that's just not enough time to really develop an index and get used to shooting a dot. It's just not. Or have you done any dry fires? Well, I don't really dry fire. Or I tried for, 10 or 20 minutes. It's just not enough time. When we start talking about target focus, usually what people are taught with iron sight shooting over the last, I don't know how many decades, people have been taught front sight focus with iron sights. What's been taught a lot is I present the gun, whether it's from a draw or low ready or compressed ready, that I need to glance down at the front sight, pick it up, and as I present, I can drop that front sight into the rear notch. So I'm putting the gun up and I have to glance down at the front sight, drop it into the rear notch, and now I can start cranking off rounds. And number one, I think we should be target focused with iron sights too. That's it's not even a question. Target focus with iron sights can be done and it works, and it's better than front sight focus, both for competition and especially for defensive application. But when we start talking about red dots, what people are doing, in my experience, is they're immediately, as they're presenting, trying to pick up the dot somehow. And what that usually leads to is I'm going to stare at the red dot device body or the glass, or so pick something and stare at it and try to find it. And usually what that does is you end up presenting the gun up or down, and you have to fish it up and down to find it. And then I've also seen people that just have a completely screwed up presentation and it's off to the right or the left or something. What you're going to have to do switching to a red dot is, or even if this is a problem that you currently have where you just can't find the red dot initially on your presentation, is hey, we're going to have to spend a couple of weeks in dry fire, 10 or 20 minutes a day for a week or two to build some kind of repeatable, confident, if you would, index. Something that I know I'm confident in. Every single time that I pull the gun up, my red dot is going to enter into my vision. Not that I'm looking for it. I should be target focused on a small spot on the target, but anytime I bring the gun up, my dot appears in the window in my vision near that spot that I'm looking, and that's consistent and repeatable, and I'm confident in it. It's going to take a little bit of time. So when people show up and they're well, I can't find the dot. How long did you spend? It's I spent 10 or 20 minutes doing it. Or I shot a box of ammo trying to do it. It's not enough time. We're moving to something where you basically have to be target focused to have any kind of success in shooting both fast and accurately. And you don't have the index built up to where you can just put the gun up and it be there. So that's already an issue. I've also seen people who the dot dances around, and this is kind of one of One of the issues with dot is like with a red dot, it'll tell you how bad you suck, and like if I bring the gun up, it kind of dances around and it wiggles, and everybody has some amount of like a tremor, and there's just nothing you can do about it. I mean, you can try to clamp down or not clamp down as much as you want, and there's still going to be some kind of a tremor. And as you breathe, it's going to come up and down. It's like, what can you do about it? Nothing. You just kind of have to deal with that being the reality. What people don't realize is that this exact same thing happens with your iron sights. And if you really, really pay attention with your iron sights, it's doing the same thing. You just don't notice it because it's more of a, call it a gross sighting system, relative to the front sight and the rear sight. You just don't notice it as much as you would as you do a little bright red dot that's floating in your vision that's just doing this the entire time. So people get hung up on that. And it's like, well, so number one, if you're focusing on the dot, you really notice that. You can try it now. If I really try to focus my vision on that red dot, I notice it going crazy, like up and down a little bit diagonally this way. It just does that. If I'm target focus, I don't notice it nearly as much. So that is kind of a tell to me that, like, when somebody says this dot is just going crazy when I present the gun, it's like, well, you're focusing on the dot. And I know you are, because if you just focused on the target, you wouldn't notice the dot dancing around as much. It'll also tell you whenever you're dry firing or live firing, that movement of the dot tells you how bad you suck. And that, like, if I jerk a shot, I might not notice it as badly with iron sights. I definitely notice it with a red dot that I had some sympathetic movement with my firing hand and I shanked that shot low and to the right. So that's one of the things to be cognizant of. And the other thing, people start talking about the dot dancing up and down in the window while they're shooting, or off to one side or the other, and then they can't get it back into their windows. That kind of tells me that there's an issue with your grip during live fire, that whenever you're shooting, the gun is doing something that it shouldn't be doing in your hands. And you should be holding the gun in a way that it does not move in your hands while you're shooting under live fire. It should roughly return to the same spot that you're looking at. In an ideal world, what we're shooting for, the goal is to have the dot return to the exact spot that you're looking at every time the sight returns. And so every time when I'm target focused, I shoot and it recoils and I bring it right back. It recoils and it comes right back. It recoils and it comes right back. And that's very exaggerated, but what it tells me whenever you have somebody's gun that it recoils and it's down is like you're trying to compensate too much for the recoil. If it stays up, it's like you're not doing enough with your hands to mitigate that recoil and return the gun back to the spot that you're looking at. And if it's off to one side, the gun is moving in your hands typically, or under recoil, your hands are moving in some kind of a way that prevents the dot from returning right to your eye target line into the center of the window. So there are issues and ways to mitigate it, but those are probably the three most common that I hear when people are switching to red dots, especially moving from iron sights to red dots. And one of the things that I will say, like especially if you're moving from iron sights to red dots, is those issues like the dot dancing around. Same thing's happening with your iron sights. You just don't notice it as much. And if your dot is not returning to center while you under recoil, it's not returning to the same spot that you're looking at, probably is happening with iron sights and you just don't notice it. And usually what it tells me is like this is a change for somebody and they're not happy with how badly they're performing with it. And so they just want to get rid of it. So, and there are drills to fix some of this. Like you can do the trigger control at speed stuff where, hey, I'm going to make sure that, my finger is outside of the trigger guard and, or off of the trigger, and I stare at a spot and I just pull the trigger. And if it moves, like it just did a little bit, then I know that I have some sympathetic movement in my hands. But if I stare at the spot and it doesn't move, which it still did just a little bit, then I know that I'm not getting as much sympathetic movement with my hands. And the same thing if you're doing it live fire, you can do the exact same thing and hold the gun up and pull the trigger to the rear, and then under recoil, make sure that, and it only takes one round, just make sure that it comes back to where you're focusing on the target at. And that kind of helps with some of this stuff where we start shooting bill drills, longer strings of fire, 5, 6 rounds, even 10 rounds, and we start seeing bullet holes track up and away, or start seeing them start going low and to the right or low and to the left. And it's like this, there's ways to diagnose like what you're doing with the dot, because if they're tracking up and away in the direction of recoil, tells me almost 95, 99% of the time you're just staring at the dot, staring at the sight. If they're going low and to one side, usually tells me that you're trying to stop the gun from recoiling either by moving your arms or by sympathetic movement in your hand. And so there's ways to mitigate that, but it just takes time. And that's something that people don't really like to hear. Like, everybody wants the red dot to be this magical sighting device that it just works and all you do is put it on and then you can shoot faster and more accurately. And it's just not really. You're going to have to spend time with it both in dry fire and in live fire to, number one, get a good index that every time I bring the gun up, I can see the dot is aligned. And under recoil, whenever I'm actually firing live rounds, that the dot is returning to the same spot that I'm looking at. And I can do that under speed at various different distances. So that's kind of my 2 cents on it. I'd like to hear more stuff in the comments. This might have turned into a little bit longer video than I initially wanted it to, but I'd like to hear a little bit more of people talking in the comments about like how target focus kind of works for red dot shooting and what their 2 cents is. I'd like to hear other people's opinions. So with that said, comment, subscribe, like the video, all this stuff. And that's pretty much it.